Hi, I'm Allison. I'm going to talk to you today about using decks of cards as a math manipulative in your classroom. The decks of cards that I typically use in my room are from my Everyday Math Kit, and I've also used regular everyday playing cards. What's special about the Everyday Math cards is that they not only have single-digit numbers, but they also have double-digit numbers. They go up to 20, and usually on most of the cards there is some sort of visual that relates to the number. So for the number 9, there's a 9-sided polygon. For the number 4, there's a square. For the number 7, there's 7 dots. So it gives the kids a concrete model of the number. Talking about how we use the cards in our classroom is we usually play a lot of games with the cards and games to practice math and kind of develop math fluency. And one of the games we first start out the year playing a lot of is a game called Beat the Calculator. And in this game there's 3 students, and one of them is the brain, one of them is the caller, and one of them is the calculator. And so the caller just pulls out 2 single-digit cards, and so they would call out 9 times 7. Well, the brain has to solve this multiplication problem with their brain and know that 9 times 7 is 63. The person who's the calculator has to punch in 9 times 7 on the calculator and find the product and show the display on their calculator. So this teaches the kids a lot of fluency and efficiency in math and building speed with knowing multiples. And then the kids really get into it because they're so competitive. And so that's a good game to play. And then building off of this, we go into another game that we call multiplication wrestling. And what we do with that game is they don't just pull out 2 cards, they actually pull out 4. And they make 2 two-digit numbers. And they play this game with a partner, and they find the product of these 2 numbers. So 97 times 28, and then whoever solved it first and solved it correctly wins those cards, and the person who gets the most cards once they're through the whole deck wins the game. Also, to go along with operations and algebraic thinking, we do a game called Division Dash, and that's a game where they just play with a partner, and they would pull out 3 cards, 3 single-digit cards, and they would make a 2-digit dividend and a single-digit divisor. And so they would do 65 divided by 3. And then the whole number quotient is their score for the round, and then they would write a cumulative score after playing 5, 8, or 8 rounds. And so it's not only a practice of division, but it gives them a practice of kind of some simple subtraction, but also just keeping data organized, which is what we find in 5th grade kids have a really hard time with, of keeping data and information organized. So that's a good plan for organization. We also use the cards for the kids to practice geometry, and when we practice geometry we do several different things. So they can use all the cards and make 2 or 3-digit numbers, and they can practice making angles that have that degree measure. So let's say they drew a 10 and a 6, they would have to make an angle that's 106 degrees. And so that's a good practice for them. And then with also going along with kind of geometry, they could pull out cards, the single-digit cards, and we have them plotting those points on a coordinate graph. So they would go, ordered pair 1, 8, and they would need to plot that point. And so it's a good practice of something that's not set down on paper. It's something that gives a little bit of variety in numbers, and it gives them good practice of the skill. And so we really like playing those games in here just because it provides variety. To go along with the fractions that are really heavy in 5th grade core standards, we do a lot of work with fractions, and we found that our kids are lacking right now in kind of a basic understanding of fractions and how they relate to decimal equivalents. And that was even one of the standards that's been left off, is percentages, fraction decimal percentage equivalents. And so this is a game that we are going to use to start practicing and knowing those equivalencies, and so the kids can become fluent in that. Is this game called Frac-Tac-Toe. And so what they do is they pull 2 single-digit cards, and the first card becomes the numerator, the second card is the denominator. And they need to develop the ability of knowing that a fraction is a division problem, and then they convert that fraction into a decimal number. And then building off that game, they take it a step further. Not only are they just making a fraction and turning it into a decimal, they're using a tic-tac-toe board and relating the fractions equivalents to a decimal, and then they play tic-tac-toe against a partner, and whoever gets tic-tac-toe first using these equivalences, is it greater than 1 whole, greater than 1 5/10, or is it less than 1 5/10? And so it's a lot of good practice for them to work on reasoning and attending to precision and working through problems that might require a couple of different tries, perseverance of that. We've also used the cards to work on averaging, where maybe they just have to pull 5 cards randomly out and they have to find the average of those numbers, find the mean of those numbers. Even though that's no longer a standard in the core standards, we still feel like it's an important practice of math facts and math fluency and ability for computation. We like to use those as well. Pretty much any practice you can think of you can do with cards. So hopefully you've learned some valuable information and you can start using decks of cards, whether they're from a specific curriculum or from just a regular plain deck. You can start using them more often in your classroom. Thanks.